over to the last event of what's been a sensational weekend. I would just, before Billy comes in, I'd like to say thank you to Richard at Spenwood Books, Ian, who edited that wonderful tome that we're here to celebrate. Thanks so much. Congratulations on it. It's utterly brilliant. Ladies and gentlemen, I'll go and give him a nudge. John Robb with the brilliant Billy Bragg.
Wow, an Elvis entry.
I always like a warm hand on my entry. Kenneth Williams, come on, you must know that. I'm in that mood, you want to be careful.
So Billy, let's start with the book since it's a book festival.
That's a good start, John, well done,
Yes.
mate, good spot.
So I thought, like I said before, instead of the memoirs, I like the idea of it being an oral history, so it kind of talks around the subject.
Yeah, well, our friends at Spenwood have all got the best seats here tonight at the front here. I've been doing a series of really great fan memoir books that I've been a big fan of. Wiggy turned me on to the Faces book that they did, which is a great read. He's just done a Clash book as well, and they're another perspective. So when they approached me about doing a fan memoir book, I thought it would be really interesting if initially I thought about something like that. I should maybe write a few bits to sort of, sew it together. I had a bit of my perspective. And then I thought actually it would be really interesting if I asked some of the people that I work with there, who were back in the studio with me, on the road with me, knocking around with me in back rooms in my mum's house playing. And it kind of grew out of that. And 700 contributions later, we have a book that says, hard to put down if you can pick it up.
You don't need to buy it now.
No, that's right. It's a doorstop of a book. I'm really proud of it. And we did a layout that in kind of like the text in thin columns, which allowed me to get loads of photographs from my archives, personal photographs, and dot them around. And the punters who wrote in sent in posters and pictures of them and me and stuff like that. So it ended up being, I think it probably ended up being a bit bigger than we all thought it was going to be. But it worked nonetheless. And because I've read a couple of other books that they did, and they kind of tend to peter out a little bit after your main period. People writing about they remember in the 1980s or whenever you big. But when I was on the road last year in America and in the UK, I was bigging up the book and saying, look, if you've got anything you want to make a contribution about, go to my website. There's a page there. You can go through to Spenwood, and so consequently, there are people writing in there about shows I've done last year, which is great. It just sort of keeps it going. Obviously, they're referring back to when they first saw me, but yeah, it's lovely to read. I mean, I don't know who this Billy Bragg guy is. I'd love to meet him. He's such a lovely bloke. we cut out all the nasty bits, didn't we? Yeah.
No, I'm sure you probably didn't. Do you leave it unedited, or do people feel they have to be the most positive story?
I don't know. You'd have to ask the contributors. But the interesting thing was there was one or two memoirs, memories of things that happened to me and friends of mine at the time, and they remembered differently in the book. The thing happened is the incident of me and Wiggy bumping into Keith Richards on our first night in New York in 1984. That definitely happened, but the way I remember it and the way Wiggy wrote about it is different. And Tiny Fenimore, the infamous Glasgow penis moment, which...
Actually, let's rewind first. We'll get to the penis. The Keith
Glasgow
Richards
penis movement, you don't want to...
So the two versions of the Keith Richards story, are they really different from each other?
No, I think it's the context of it. I thought we were in a queue with Marlon, which is Keith Richards' son. But with Wiggy, we come out and Marlon's in the car with Keith, and it's the roadies getting the Burger King. We're in a Burger King, yeah. So it happens, the conversation we have with Keith, I remember that. But I don't, the lead up to it is different. And I thought, well, that's Wiggy's memory. I'm not going to mess around with him. I'm not going to say that didn't happen. So and same with Tiny and the notorious penis incident. Yeah, I was in Glasgow. It was around the time of the Internationale album. I was in Glasgow at Mayfest, and we were in a church hall rehearsing with a women's choir. There were 30 women, and me and my piano player, Cara Tivi. It was a hall about as big as this, and they sent someone from the Glasgow Herald to take a photo, and she was down the far end of the room. with Tiny Fenimore, who wrote the memoir, and she shouted out to me from the back of the room, "Billy, I can't see your penis!" And I'm, what? What is your penis? I can't see it, your penis! Unfortunately, Cara, who's at the side, says, "I'm over here." But Tiny remembers it outside a gig, that they had talked to me outside a gig. But it's her memory. I'm not about to say to her, "Hey, we can't have that," and it didn't happen like that.
Surely that's one of the great things about an oral history, is the contradictions.
Well, the question then comes, John, is how many of my memories are correct? The way I remember things. That made me think about, wow, well, I wonder if because over time you smooth these things over, didn't you? You tell stories and you think, yeah, this was the way it happened. So it led me to sort of start unpicking some of the stuff that I'd written and thinking, did I really? Because I've looked, I haven't got loads and loads and loads of stuff, but I've got some old diaries and some old calendars, and some of the things I thought I did at the time that I did them, I couldn't have done because I wasn't there. So, I wasn't there then. I wasn't that year. It must have been another year. Well, what year was it then? I wasn't that year. So, after 40 years, you're bound to have a bit of that sort of, can you remember all the Glastonbury's we've done? I can't. Which particular year it was that we did the week that we won? Yeah, didn't they?
It's a one great.
Except we haven't had I shouldn't really say it, but we haven't had a wet one, have we, for a while?
No, they don't.
I was saying to my grandchildren the other day, they haven't done a wet one yet. They don't know what it's like. You can't wear them shoes there, you have to wear something else.
No, you have to hop.
You will.
So when you read the book,
yeah,
do you think it gets close to the measure of you?
It's hard to judge, very hard to judge. But what it does do, it gives you another perspective on what you do. That's the important thing. Because obviously, when you're up here, you get your own perspective. You see it, you're looking at it. You don't get the feeling from those people who've encountered your work, whether it's live or on record, and how it makes them feel. And that's important, because as I've said before, I'm going to say it again tonight, because it's not I passionately believe in. The currency of music is empathy. That's what we're offering you. We're offering you a sensibility that you might not get somewhere else, in the sense that you may listen to a song and feel some empathy towards the character of that song and the situation they find themselves in, or the other way around, you play the song and you are the person in the song and you feel you're not alone. That's what music does. All music does that, even dance music. You put on a banging song in your house, you go to it and it really lifts you up and you think it's incredible. You go to a club, song comes on, everybody goes mad and think it's incredible, you suddenly feel you're not alone. That's the power of music. Not the power to change the world, but the power all the same. So listening to people talking about how they got those kind of feelings from what I'm doing, it really kind of makes me make that connection and understand better that, this empathy thing that I've been, psychologically I've always known, but I've been talking about recently, because I think there's a bit of a war on empathy at the moment, and those of us who do this job need to be pumping it up, not just politically, but whoever's making art, whatever, need to be pumping it up.
Is that always something that's been a driving force in all the different types of songs that you've written?
Yeah and no, John. In the fact that that's true, and no, in the fact that I didn't realise it. Over time, you come to think to yourself, well, I'm writing these songs. A few years ago, I was at a festival somewhere in Canada, and a young British songwriter, I won't say his name, came to see me and he said, "Bill, I've been writing all these songs and nothing's changed." And I had to put my arm around and say, "Man, look, I have to tell you something. Woody's guitar didn't actually kill fascists, right? Seriously, it's not what we do. That's not what we're about." That was a slogan. That was a powerful slogan. So powerful we still talk about it. But it was a slogan. If that's what you're trying to do with your music, you're going to end up like someone like Phil Oakes, who believed passionately that music could change the world. And when he felt he'd failed to do that, he didn't know better than we do all these years later. In '68 in Chicago, when it all fell apart, it destroyed him. He took his life. You have to have a little bit of distance from it. So having said that, how do you account for that feeling you've got when you've been at a gig and you've come away feeling fired up? How do you account for that? Because I get it at night. I finish my show, so I finish with There's Power in a Union, and a room full of people are giving it that, singing at the top of their voice. I come off stage, my activism is recharged. You've seen it at left field, and my cynicism is temporarily kicked to the curb. So how do you account that music doesn't really have that power? It has some power. And it does, and the power, this is something I've thought about over the years, just to rationalise it for myself. The power that music has is not the power to change the world, but the power to make you believe the world can be changed. And understanding how the punters make me feel when I come off has made me do everything I can in my power to make sure the punters go home with the same feeling. To send them away feeling they're not alone, to send them away feeling there's a room full of people in this town who do give a shit about this thing, whatever it is we're talking about. And that is it. That's probably, in my experience, I mean, I say this, I make this explicit. I don't know if any of you see me, I often say this to the audience because some of us have been around long enough to have been around the block a few times with this idea about music and changing the world. And we need a little bit of a bit of more encouragement, you know, and to continue believing. And I think the reason I didn't think about it before was it was explicit in what we were doing in punk rock. It was absolutely explicit, all this shit. But now, after all this time and all these disappointments and all these effing Tories, we need to remind ourselves why we're doing this and what we're doing, and there is a community out there and that we're not alone. And this is what music, this is the empathy I'm talking about, the power that music has. And when these big old geezers come up to me after the gig and say, oh, you sang such and such a song, it made me cry, I'm like, great, mate, because that's what I'm talking about. That's the empathy I'm talking about. That I can bring you in a room and move you like that. That's the power of music. How fortunate are we as music fans that we are able to change our mood by simply putting a bit of music on. Not have to put any chemicals in our body or anything and change our mood. I mean, that is a really beautiful, beautiful thing to have.
And is that played out in the book? You know, you read what people think of the music?
Yeah, it is. I mean, you know, people come along and they talk about a particular song. You know, there's a song I have about the death of my father, Tank Park Salute, that has a lot of meaning to me, never mind everybody else, and that really resonates. But it's all sorts of differences. I mean, my first song, you know, side one, record one, The Movement of Human Kindness. That's about empathy. But my most recent album, I have a song called I Will Be Your Shield, and it's exactly the same sentiment, just in a more ballad form. And that's now taken on quite a heavy emotional weight with my audience in terms of getting feedback from my audience. That song really hits home, and I appreciate why. You know, because not just for those of us who you know went through the pandemic, it's not really about that, but it's using that idea of a shield, whether you want to take it in terms of emotional solidarity in a partnership or political solidarity. However, you know, my favourite Billy Bragg songs are a Venn diagram of the emotional and the political. They're the ones I think that hit hardest and hit best and send people away with the right idea.
So when you see the entries in the book, what people say, do you see, and it's a long-term career now, which is good.
Yeah.
You're a veteran.
Yeah.
Do you see there's different phases, different ways that people relate to the music, and also the different ways that you relate to the music as well, your own music?
Yeah, I think there are different ways that I relate to it, yeah. I think in the old days, obviously, it had more of an urgency, you know, during the miners' strike and stuff like that. It was, you know, the need to come up with new material more often and stuff like that. And now there's other ways. I mean, I was at a wedding last night up near Gloucester, and my cousin got married, and his two kids played a bit of piano. They were great on piano. I was talking to them afterwards, and they couldn't believe I was a musician. I didn't read music, and I had to say to them, "You know, I'm not really a musician. I'm a guitar player, and I'm only a guitar player because when I was 19, the only medium available for me to communicate my thoughts to the world was to learn to play guitar, write songs, and do gigs. If I was 19 now, I probably wouldn't do that because it's quite a high bar. It's a high bar. Don't look it from where you are, from there on the carpet to here, but that little step up there, not everyone can take that and go up in front of a room of strangers. Not everyone can do that. So now it's better because everybody can have their say. But as a result of that, music has lost some of its edge, I think, because back in, I don't know why I'm telling you this, you all know, you've probably written books about it. You know, it was the only medium we had. It had to communicate everything. Well, you know, it's how we spoke to each other. It's how we spoke to our parents' generation. Music told you what to wear. It told you who to hang out with. It told you not to hang out with. There were 4 music papers a week. So all the ideas that you were thrashing about in your albums, you could thrash them out and debate them in the music press. That's kind of what we do with Red Wedge. You know, we threw it all out there and thrashed it out in the music press. But that's all gone now. So the imperative to write songs, maybe, you know, this week something happens, I might do 1,000 words on Facebook and have a ding dong on there. So
You
yeah,
should do quite often.
I do, yeah, I do. Because it's my bottom line, John. I'm a communicator. I'm not really a musician. I mean, I'm a guitar player, you know, and I love playing the guitar and I love doing gigs. But my bottom line is, I would do it anyway if it wasn't my job. But I'm a communicator. Really. I write books and stuff like that. It's just how best to put my, you know, the only justification as an artist, whatever art you make, the only justification you need is that you don't see your view reflected somewhere. That gives you the right, I think, to go up there and do and say whatever it is you feel is your truth. And in my generation, the platform for that, to get the biggest audience, was the same as you, John. That was to get up on here and shout it out during punk rock.
Yet, despite all that, music still has a power.
Yeah, oh, definitely, yeah.
You know, looking at the stage and left field, I'm not talking about just your music,
No,
the
I
young
agree,
bands
I
that
agree.
you have every year, they still have the
I
power
agree.
to affect. You look at people's faces in the audience,
Yeah.
and it's changing lives, it's affecting people.
But we have to admit, John, that music is no longer in the vanguard of youth culture. We have to accept
No,
that.
it's part of a...
Yeah, it's a broader thing. It's a broader thing now.
But what